Welcome everybody. Welcome to the Mental Warrior 22 show. I am your host, Alex Bonilla. Today we are going live, skipping the introduction and just diving straight into it. Uh, Welcome everybody. If you can, please put in the comment section at highlight, let all your peoples know we are here, we are live. Tonight, we are talking about something that many people actually talk about. The question is very simple, but the answer is usually not so simple. Um, Tonight, we are talking about who needs you, who are you when no one needs you? That's what we're talking about. Who are you when nobody needs you? You know, for years, many of us have built an entire identity around being needed. We became the provider, the protector, the caregiver, the veteran, the parent, the fixer. We are often the strong one, right? We're the one that everyone calls when things fall apart. And for a while, that feels great, right? It always feels good. It gives you purpose, it gives you direction, it gives us meaning. People rely on us, people count on us. So again, it feels good. It feels good to be needed. But eventually something changes, right? Whether it's the military ends, your career changes, the children grow up, the marriage ends, retirement may come, and the phone stops ringing. And now we find ourselves asking, who am I now? Who am I when nobody needs me? And tonight, that's what we're talking about. And I want you to be honest with yourself, not with me, not with social media, not your friends, not your family. Tonight, I want you to be honest with yourself because many of us have spent years introducing ourselves by what we do instead of who we are. And, you know, but the question is, who are we underneath all of these titles? Because the titles change, right? Your roles end, the jobs disappear. Again, the children grow up, they leave the house, the uniforms will come off, the relationships will change. But all of that, underneath all of that, tonight, I have three questions that I want to ask you in the beginning. But first, hey, Leanne. Hey, Trina, Evelyn, Linda. Hey, Gavin. Everyone, thank you for joining again. If you can, listen, let's put this on blast in the comment sections. Highlight your peoples, at followers. Like, let's get this thing going. Let's share this with everyone. So, question number one. I'm pretty sure I'm a mermaid underneath all of this, taking care of everyone else. Listen, you never know. You never know. Probably. But here's question number one that I want you to ask yourself. Who have you spent your life being? Who have you spent your life being? That is question number one. Question number two is, what role defined your worth? There's always one. There usually is. What role defined your worth? Was it the military? Was it the parent? Was it something else? You know? Sometimes your heart needs more time to accept what your mind already knows. I agree. I agree. A mom, see? That's important. And a lot of times we hang on to these things, right? When you become a parent, especially, like that's a big deal. That is a big deal. So Question 3. If that role disappeared tomorrow, who would still remain? If that role disappeared tomorrow, who would still remain? And those questions may be simple for some, it may be uncomfortable, but again, growth usually begins with uncomfortable questions. So we're going to ask these tough, uncomfortable questions. You know, a lot of us, including myself, had to learn this difficult lesson. You know, my purpose was never my position, but a lot of us held on to that, right? It's a tough lesson to learn that your identity was never your title. You know, pleasing my mom, Leanne, replying, I forgot question number 2, but I will always be a mom. You're right. But it's different when the kids grow up and they leave the home, right? When they become self-sufficient, because some will always run back home. But for the most part, once they leave, you know, you kind of lose that identity. And that's what we're talking about here tonight, because many people listening right now, you know, some of us here, some of you guys may feel exhausted. Some are grieving. Some feel invisible, not noticed, forgotten, right? Some have spent years taking care of everyone else that you don't know how to take care of yourself anymore. And if that's you, then let's talk about that. I want you to know that you're not alone. You're not the only one who feels that way. And that's what we're doing here, right? This conversation isn't about losing purpose. It's about rediscovering that purpose. It's about finding the person underneath the responsibilities, underneath the expectations, the person underneath the survival mode. Throughout tonight's conversation, I want you to participate. I want you to drop your thoughts in the comments. Answer the questions if you can, share your experiences, because somebody else is listening and they may need your words. So again, thank you for joining. Jojo, the sun, in a sole source of joy for others' way, heavy burden. It is. And that's something that we chose to step up and do. And some didn't even, you know, it felt like our calling. We did it. We stepped up. But it almost becomes our secondary MOS. It becomes our job. Like, that's it. It's an attachment. And there's a lot of energy vampires who will feed off of that too. So I want you to ask yourself, who are you outside of your responsibilities? What titles have you attached your worth to? What version of yourself are you still trying to become again? So, Leanne, big kid, still in college, so she hasn't leveled all the way up to adult. However, having an empty house for about a year let me really actually do me for the first time in my life. Right? Listen, there's like it's that double-edged sword, right? Like once the kids are out of the house, you're like, whoo, kids are grown. I can do me again. But then it's bittersweet, right? Because then sometimes the house feels a little too quiet for some. Tasha, when you no longer have purpose from a title after caregiver change and who don't have children, you can definitely have your doubts regarding purpose. Absolutely. It's tough. It's tough when you go from knowing exactly what you want to do, you know, like for myself, the military was my first option. I did it. And having to retire earlier than I wanted to, having to get out of the military, like I was lost. And so the real question tonight isn't so much about who are you when nobody needs you. The question maybe should be, who are you when you finally have the opportunity to need yourself? And that's what I want to discuss, right? I want you to think about something. Hey everyone, when someone asks you, tell me about yourself, tell me about yourself. Most of us, most people answer with a title, right? Oh, I'm a dad, or I am the CEO, or I am a veteran, I am a nurse, a teacher, I am a firefighter. We often answer with our titles and we tell people what we do, but very few of us tell people who we are. And that's because somewhere along the line, like many of us began trying, or we began tying our worth to our responsibilities. And we kind of started identifying that, right? For instance, for me, I identified it a lot with being in my uniform. The mission was clear, the purpose was clear, people depended on me. My identity became connected to my service. And for parents, your identity becomes your children. For caregivers, your identity becomes taking care of someone else or others, right? For leaders, it's maybe solving other people's problems. And those roles are important, but make no mistake, they're still just roles. And as I mentioned earlier, the roles will change. They can't easily change. And when that happens, and the life transitions happen, then what, right? Because when those changes occur, many people feel lost because the role that you depended on, that they depended on to define themselves, no longer exists. So if those roles no longer exist, what do you do? So again, I want you to ask yourself, who was I before everyone needed me? Before everyone needed you, who, who was that person before everyone needed you, before you became everyone's go-to person? I want you to ask yourself. So, Lori, hello. I am Lori, and I am a badass. Okay, you've been notified. Listen, own it. If that's what you are, own it. Right? So, I want you to think about, who was I before everyone needed me? What passions did I put on hold? Because that also happens, right? You become a parent and that becomes your identity. A lot of things are put on hold, right? Life or the things you wanted to do. Now, I'm not saying that you regret. This has nothing to do with resentment or regret towards having kids. No, I'm talking about just the facts, right? We get injured, the career ends, right? What things did you put on hold, right? What dreams did you abandon? If you abandon any dreams, right? What parts of myself did I sacrifice to become everything for everyone else? Because again, your role may change, but your values remain. You're still you. Your compassion is going to remain. The the strength, your heart will remain, right? Even if the title disappears, but we don't see that, right? The person underneath is still there, but we're still hanging on to that role, that responsibility. And maybe tonight is the first time in a long time that you've been given permission to like rediscover that person. But it's there. It's there. It's within you. So, Jojo, sometimes who we are gets assigned to us when we are young. I've learned to look back at what made me me. Feels best when I was younger, not what others wanted from me. Exactly. That's why I say go back to before everyone needed you and ask yourself who you are, because that's important. And maybe that may not be who you want to be today, but again, it's still very much there. So I became Misty, I became the one everyone relied on at such a young age that I don't know who I was before that. And that is another important thing there. For some of us who had parents who maybe were sick or parents who were absent parents, or for whatever reason, the oldest sibling basically took on the task of being mom or dad. And when that happens, and it's the unfortunate, when you're forced to grow up faster than you should, you you lose sight of all that, right? Your dreams and everything get put on hold because everyone's relying on you. You you have to be that person for everyone, for the family. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you have a good support system that will encourage you to still pursue your dreams. But then there's the unfortunate side where sometimes it's your own parents or those closest to you that the moment you want to take care of you, they make you feel guilty about it, like as if you're turning your back on the family or the ones you're caring for. So, Lori, for some, felt like really nothing until they become a parent, firefighter, counselor, boxer. It's learning just who I am, relearning just who you are. I agree. All I want is to rediscover my childhood happiness. I like that. I think for most of us, like I wish I can go back to that. Listen, the the most ridiculous thing I said was I can't wait till I become an adult because it ain't easy. It ain't easy. But let's talk about something that very few of us like to discuss, and let's talk about grief, and not the grief in the terms in the sense of when somebody dies. Grief comes when a version of you dies. That's the part I want to talk about, right? Because a lot of us tonight are grieving something, and whether that is the person you used to be, you're grieving a career that ended. Some are grieving a marriage. Some are grieving their health. You're grieving dreams that never happened. And some are grieving a life that you thought you would have. We understand grief when someone passes away, right? When someone passes away, what happens? Someone, people bring food, people will send cards, people will check on us. But what happens when the person we're grieving is ourselves? What happens when, you know, as I mentioned before, when the children leave, or you go through a divorce, when you have an injury that changes your life, there's a health problem. What happens when the career you spent years building suddenly disappears? Nobody teaches us how to grieve those things because we don't recognize it as grief. It just shows up in other ways, right? To us, it shows up as anger, isolation, um, the anxiety. It shows up as overworking, right? It shows up as staying busy because being still is going to feel uncomfortable. And sometimes people aren't angry, they're grieving. Deborah, keeping your mind, your hands, your body busy working, having a great support system, maybe a best friend that you can talk things through. But work is the ultimate guide to help any type of grief. It is. It's just really important that we understand the there's working and then there's overworking yourself. Don't become so consumed with your work that you lose sight of your journey, your healing, and giving yourself that grace, right? And then there's the ones who aren't working. Sometimes people aren't lazy, they're just really exhausted. People become disconnected. So, again, what version of yourself are you still trying to get back to? Is that the person that you were before the trauma, before the divorce, before the deployments, the diagnosis, before your life changed? Because it's something I had to learn myself. Healing isn't always about becoming who you used to be. Sometimes healing is becoming someone new. Sometimes you, just as if you're killing the ego, sometimes you have to just grieve that version of you, but you become someone new. And just because you become someone new, it doesn't mean that's a bad thing. You take the experiences and everything, and uh, time and place for them. Okay. Um, you know, Life changes. Experiences will change us. Loss will change us. There's so many things in life that will change us, especially as kids, as you're growing, it will change you. So maybe the goal isn't to go backwards. Maybe the goal is to move forward, but with wisdom, with experience. I know there were periods in my own life where I kept trying to become a person that I was before the deployments, before the injuries, before the transition, but eventually I realized that that person wasn't coming back. And I had to learn that that wasn't failure. I labeled that wrong. I held on to that. It has to be failure, but it wasn't. It was growth. The old version of me helped create the person that I am today. And perhaps that's true for you too. Maybe you don't need to find the old you. Maybe you need to give yourself permission to meet a new you. And as we move forward in this, we're going to talk about something many of us know very well, right? And that's the cost of always being the strong one. Tina, I felt it's been so difficult aging, body changing, your mind changing, and being alone for so long changes who we are as well. I stay stressed about being able to maintain my life and being the best to my family as I can. I feel like I fight to be my best. My body fights me back. Then I must make changes to take care of my mom now because she was always there for me. I grieve many things, dreams, health, self, and all the lost time I created in my mature self. I'm angry with myself, and the gym is what helps me feel a little better. I'm glad that you have the gym to help you feel better, and I thank you for sharing that. Um, I thank all of you, everyone who's tuning in right now, who's commenting. Listen, I thank you for being vulnerable with me, with everyone, and sharing. Um, it's not easy, and aging is another thing that you can't slow that down. It's going to happen. It's the inevitable. A lot of people may tell you, "Hey, take this pill, drink this, whatever." You're not fighting that, um, or you're not stopping it. And it's a rough transition. And I would encourage you to look at how far you've come, look at everything you've accomplished, and rather than being angry with the aging in time, it's you're hitting the gym, you're doing all these things that you're doing at your age, whatever your age may be, you're doing it. And you're adding years to your life. You are doing it for a reason, whether it's therapy, whether it's you just want to look good at the beach, but it's taking that power back and not seeing it as a negative because it's the unfortunate, right? We can't go back and change that, but we can focus on how we view moving forward. So let's talk about the strong ones. Let's talk about the strong ones. The one that everyone calls, the one that everyone depends on, right? But it's also the person that always says, what? I'm fine. Because if we're being honest, many of us spent years carrying everyone else. We solve problems, we fix them, we show up, we provide, we protect, we can carry all this alone, right? And somewhere along the way, we begin to believe that our value comes from how much we can carry, how much we continue to put in that backpack. We become that strong one again. But as we often learned, who checks on the strong one? Who asks how you are doing? Who notices when you're struggling? Because if you're constantly being the strong one and telling everyone you're fine, then how will they know? How will they truly know that you're struggling? If you are hiding behind that smile, how can they tell, right? How can they see the battles that you are fighting behind it? And many people listening tonight have become experts at appearing okay. It's we go to work, take care of our families, we do good, or we try to do good, right? We smile, we show up, but internally we're just exhausted. And exhaustion often looks like falling apart. It doesn't always look like falling apart. Exhaustion can look to a lot of us like never sitting still, having a hard time sleeping, sometimes trying to always stay busy. Some of us get irritated easily, or we just feel disconnected. Shannon, that's my response to everyone. I'm fine because I don't want to burden them. I find that interesting because that's something that I think most of us has said at one point in time. I'm fine. I don't want to burden everyone, but you're willing to carry everyone else's. And you can accept, like, you know what? They came to me, so I need to help them. Like, they need help. They opened up. I need to take care of this. It's serious. But when it comes to you, you don't want to burden anyone else. You carry it alone. And we don't take our own advice. You're carrying that anxiety that nobody sees. And for years, like, we were taught that strength meant handling everything alone, especially in the military, or some of us who had like old school parents. Being a man, being a leader, like, you were taught to push through, right? How many women were raised by a very strict mom who was very old school, and regardless of the issues in the relationship, mom was like, no, suck it up. You take that, you handle it, you deal with it, you suck it up, because they believe that's how you had to be back then. So you just described me. Dakota, thank you. Um, that's most of us. And it's the unfortunate, right? When you become the strong one, you don't complain, right? You want to handle your business. You're the resilient one, right? And while the resilience matters, there comes a point where carrying everything alone is just going to become a burden, right? Strength without support becomes exhaustion. Strength without connection becomes isolation. And strength without healing just becomes survival mode. And I know there are periods in my own life where people may have seen me as a strong person, but internally, I was struggling. And many veterans, most people understand this, right? My parent, like many parents, understand this. You can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. You can help everyone, but still not know how to help yourself. And perhaps one of the hardest things that many of us do is ask for help. Asking for help isn't a weakness. We tell everyone this. We tell everyone this all the time. And yet we're not taking our own advice. It's not a sign of weakness, but it's actually courage. What if strength isn't carrying everything alone? What if strength is allowing someone to walk beside you? And maybe tonight, your next step isn't about fixing everything. Maybe it's simply just being honest. Maybe it's calling someone, attending a walk, joining a community. Maybe it's saying, I'm struggling, because healing doesn't happen in the isolation, and you don't have to carry these battles alone. So before I move any further, we're going to stop for a moment, take a breather. Theo, can you please pay the bills?
Men of Warrior 22 isn't just a pound. It's a reminder to keep going when life gets heavy. Visit MW22 Shop and check out the latest shirts, hats, mugs, and gear built for the mindset, not just the look. Stronger together, no one stands alone. If you need coffee that actually hits different, this is it. Fuel your mind, elevate your day. Go to Aerial Resupply Coffee Company, proud sponsor of the Mental Warrior 22 show. Use MW22 for 20% off. Link is in my bio. Empowering Holistic Health is a proud sponsor of the Mental Warrior 22 show and a proud partner of the Mental Warrior 22 Foundation, helping people focus on wellness from the inside out. From health programs and supplements to apparel designed to support your lifestyle, she is building a community around better health and better living. Visit empoweringholistic.com for more. RTS is a proud supporter of the Mental Warrior 22 mission, focused on purpose, leadership, and building stronger people and stronger communities. If you're looking to grow, lead, and elevate your mindset, visit yesrts.com and learn more about what RTS is building. Built with purpose, driven by impact. Hey everybody, this is Lex from Mental Warrior 22, and I want to talk to you about the war inside. The war inside was born from real battles, real struggles, and the truth that many of us spend our lives living in survival mode without even realizing it. This book isn't written about trauma. It's about resilience. It's about confronting the lies that we tell ourselves, breaking free from the weight of our past, and finding the strength to reclaim our lives. If you ever felt like you had to carry the world alone, if you've ever smiled while silently falling apart, then I wrote this for you. The War Inside is a reminder that healing is possible, that hope is real, and no one has to fight alone.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Dakota, a deep reflection of ourselves. To truly understand the person in the mirror, having to understand that we are all our own worst critics. Absolutely. I think that right here, if you allow that voice to just get louder, it will feed you nonsense if you let it. And it's important to remind it that's not who you are, to rise above that, to push past that, right? So, again, a lot of us tend to get in our own heads and we don't let other people do that. You know, being the strong one, we are constantly giving people those positive affirmations. We're helping them. We're like, hey, um, you don't have to talk to yourself like that. That's not who you are. You're better than that. We empower people, our kids, we motivate them. We are constantly doing that for our kids. But for some reason, when it comes to ourselves, why aren't we doing that? You know, why is it so difficult for us to believe that we are just as worthy, right? Doesn't matter what it is. Why can't you get that job? How many times have you seen someone, and it's not hating on somebody, but how many times have you seen someone get the job or doing a job that you know you can do, but you refuse to sign up for it? And maybe that was the difference. That's it. Maybe they just believed just a little bit more that they can do it, right? So it's who you are and understanding that even though that job in the military may be over, that career, it doesn't change who you are. I just recently was at a retreat and I was talking about that, about when the uniform comes off, regardless of what uniform you wear, the uniform isn't what made you. Like it was your heart, it's you, who you are as a person. So it doesn't matter what you put on, it's still you. That's still who you are, not that outfit, not that title, not that role. No one's going to remember that at the end of the day. At the end of the day, my kids won't care that I was in the military. Yeah, they might be proud of it, but they won't care. They want to know at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I want my kids to be able to stand there and say, that man was a damn good dad. He was an amazing person. He took care of us. That's what I want. Don't care about the other titles or any of that stuff. So let's talk about, we talked about the grief, the identity, and the cost of being the strong one. But as we know, awareness alone doesn't create healing. It requires action. So what do we do, right? How do we rebuild without attempting to rebuild your entire life today? This is never what we're trying to do. We're never trying to, I'm not here to rebuild your life today. I'm helping you take that first step forward. That's all you need to do. Just take one step. One step. Small progress is still progress, right? So you take that first step because the purpose isn't found overnight. Danielle, the jobs that make me the most uncomfortable are the ones I go for. Yes, scared crapless, but it has done amazing things for my life. But I still ask, if someone says, hey, I want you to do this and this, you can do it. My response is, are you sure I can do that? Right? We get in our own way. That's it. We stop ourselves because if other people can see it, it's for a reason. And it's like trying to remind you. And that's what I'm here. I am trying to be a mirror for you guys. I am not teaching you anything you don't already know. It's just a reflection. And that's what I want you to do. Right? I am just reminding you, to remind you of who you are, to remind you of the badass that you are. If maybe you have fallen and lost your way, it's just bringing you back. Like, hey, welcome. We got you. You don't have to do this alone. And understand that your purpose isn't going to be built overnight. Healing isn't going to happen all at once. It's just going to happen repeatedly. The same way all that nonsense and that negative self-talk, that didn't happen overnight. Because if I come to you right now and I told you some negative stuff and I cursed you out, you would probably curse me back. You would attack. You wouldn't tolerate it. It's the slow, consistent, negative self-talk. It's the life beating you down, and that became your reality. So in order to change that, we're going to have to also do the same thing, but feed it the good. Lori, start right where you are, and yes, take the first step. How do we do that? I think we get stuck. So what? You're going to get stuck. It's going to happen. And that's just it. For most of us, we ride that high, and the moment the first problem comes and it knocks us back, we think we didn't learn, and that's it. We're like, oh, I tried it. It's not good. It didn't work. But you get back up and you try it again. That's how we learn how to ride a bike. That's how we learn how to fire a rifle. That's how we learn how to do many things, right? You think that one day you woke up and you was just a damn good parent? Like, I'm pretty sure there was a lot of mistakes made along the way, but you learn. So the first thing I encourage people to do is just, it's very simple. It's the first thing that I want you to do. Check in with yourself. Check in with yourself. Most of us, we wake up, and the first thing we do when we wake up is we check our phones. We get on our phones, and immediately we want to start doom scrolling. Like, hey, let me see if someone commented on my post. Let me watch these videos for a while. One video becomes 5, becomes 20. You start checking the news, you check your text messages, your emails, whatever it is, right? Again, what everyone else needs. That's what you're doing. But how often do we ask ourselves, how am I doing today? How often do and maybe some of you can answer, maybe some of you do it already. When you wake up in the morning, do you ever ask yourself, when you wake up, how am I doing today? What do I need? What am I carrying? What would help me today? Before you even check anything else or check on everybody else, do you sit and ask yourself these questions, right? Again, how am I doing today? What do I need? And what am I carrying? Simple questions, but a lot of times we don't ask. We get distracted by the phone. And if you're a parent, immediately you jump up and you're taking care of the kids and you forget to put your oxygen mask on first and then focus on everything else. Shannon, I wake up and go straight into my day. A lot of us have done that. I am guilty of doing that at some point. Now I try to wake up a few hours before my daughter has to get up. Before she starts her classes, I try to get up and have a little me time, right? Whether that's coffee and meditation, coffee and reading a book. It's it's taking that time for myself because man, you're just constantly going to be in a state of anxiety and alert. If the moment you jump up, you're going straight into your day, everything is going to feel like you're in a hurry. Everything feels like I'm back home. Being from New York, everything is go, go, go. And a lot of people are in a hurry to go nowhere fast. And if you don't take a moment to slow down, you're just constantly on that survival mode. And by the time you get home and you lay down, good luck trying to slow that down. Some of us, we might crash and go to bed, but that's not healthy. That's only going to be, that might work for a few nights. So, Danielle, I wake up, have my coffee, take a deep breath, and then start kicking the day's butt. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Theo's response, I had to till I had to hit rock bottom to have my paradigm shift. Some people have to, right? And that's the unfortunate. That's the unfortunate part, right? Sometimes we have to hit our rock bottom, but it doesn't always have to be that way. It doesn't always. For those who feel they've hit that rock bottom, then that's the good news, right? There's only one way to go. You're not going any lower than that. It's there's there's a Spanish saying when someone is afraid of hitting the ground, and it says del piso no pasa, and that means from the ground there's nothing past that. You're not going any further. So that is the positive when you hit rock bottom. Maybe that's your aha moment because there's no other distractions but to turn around and start climbing your way back up. And for those who haven't hit the rock bottom, you don't have to hit rock bottom to make that shift, right? That's kind of like when it gets close to the end of the year, how often do you hear people saying their New Year's resolution? I'm going to go to the gym January 1st. New year, new me. New year, new me. Why do you have to wait until January 1st to work on the new you? Start now. And if you fall, you get back up and you start again. And if you fall, you start again. And at some point, you're not going to fall as much. And you're not going to fall anymore because you're going to take off. You're going to take off those training wheels. You're going to ride off, right? So, Laurie, I will divert all times to avoid things I need to do. So I need to learn how to first give thanks for the day and believe it or not. Grateful heart sees things, and I agree. Just be grateful. It's the unfortunate part. There's so many people who didn't have the opportunity to wake up today. So what do? Put your oxygen mask first. Ask yourself how you are doing today. Then we can take care of everything else. Right? I am terrible at my to-do list. I have friends who are constantly reminding me, straighten out my calendar. Terrible at it. I'm terrible. And I will always run to want to help someone. And thankfully, I have friends who will try to slow me down. But so the first, ask yourself how you're doing. Check in on yourself, right? So the second thing is movement. It is movement. And for me, movement saved me. Whether it's going to the gym, some people like to walk, cycle, run, swim, stretch, yoga. The body is going to carry that stress. The body will carry the stress. The body carries the trauma. The body carries the anxiety. And movement helps release some of what that body is carrying. It's not a fix all, but how many of you go to the gym and you just kind of like leave it there on the weights? How many of you go for a walk, a drive, motorcycle ride, get some wind therapy, and for that moment, it just it's that reset, you know. Shannon, today I am going to start putting my oxygen mask on first. Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of people don't understand the importance of that. You are no good to anyone else if you're not taking care of yourself. And taking care of yourself doesn't mean screw everybody else. It just means me first. That's it. It's me putting me first and having boundaries. And the only people that will have a problem with you having those healthy boundaries are those who benefited from you being a people pleaser. That's it. The only people who are going to have a problem with your boundaries. And if they have a problem, that's their problem, not yours. You continue to put your oxygen mask first. So, again, movement, right? It's one of the reasons that we started our Transformation Tuesday walk. For those of you who follow Mental Warrior 22 Foundation, we started the Transformation Tuesday walk because healing doesn't always happen when you're sitting across from a therapist, right? Sometimes healing happens walking beside someone who understands. Dakota, right? You can testify doing the IW hikes, doing that walk. There's so much in walking beside someone, whether you are sharing your experience, your trauma, or just being next to someone and having that conversation to know you don't have to face things alone, right? Healing happens when you walk beside someone who might truly understand. It happens during those conversations. It happens in those moments like when we really realize we're not alone. And that's why we started the Transformation Tuesday walk. So if you're ever near Dallas in the Waxahachie area, listen, Tuesdays we do our walks. Stop by, come check it out. The third, journaling. Now, some people hate to write, but I'm here to tell you journaling doesn't have to be so complicated. You don't have to complicate journaling. It's for you. Journaling is for you. You don't need paragraphs. You don't need to correct your spelling. The grammar doesn't matter. This is for you. So you just need to be honest. You need to be honest and put the pen to paper and ask yourself, what am I feeling? What am I afraid of? What do I need? Um, what am I grateful for? Uh, many people, many people spend years carrying emotions they've never spoken out loud. And sometimes you may feel like you have no one to talk to, and you'd be surprised putting it on paper. Sometimes that writing is the first step towards releasing it. I mentioned a few years back, I'm big on writing it down and sometimes even reading it out loud and burning it after I read it. Put it out into the world. Now it's out in the universe. You know, number four, communication. Connection. Connection feeds healing. Isolation is only going to feed the struggle. One of the biggest lies that many of us believe is that we have to do this all alone, and you don't, right? So there is that connection, whether it's a support group, trusted friends, a faith community, Mental Warrior 22, or just a person you trust. Healing is going to happen in the connection. Lori, that's so encouraging. Having support, knowing there's people with you. And I do like that advice on journaling. Thank you. Jojo, I just need my journal from when I was younger to help fill the blanks for a memoir. Jojo's a very good writer, for those of you who don't know. And she can tell you the importance of writing and what that can do for you. And again, sometimes that story can be a lifesaver for somebody. You just never know. But it's, again, community. No one should have to face things alone. And finally, there is self-compassion. Giving yourself grace, right? Many of us speak to ourselves in ways that we would never speak to someone we love. We call ourselves weak. We criticize ourselves. We compare. We beat ourselves up for not being where we think we should be. And that requires a lot of grace. Healing is going to require that grace. The rest is not weakness. Asking for help is not failure. And your boundaries, as I mentioned a moment ago, is not selfish. Choosing yourself doesn't mean that you are abandoning everyone else. And understand that, because that's a problem that most of us have. We criticize ourselves because when we put ourselves first, we feel like, oh, but I have my family to take care of. I have this. We start kind of justifying why we shouldn't. But again, it's putting your oxygen mask, right? So if you take nothing from this tonight, just remember this. You don't have to have your entire future figured out. Just take the first step. That one conversation, that one walk, that one journal entry, one phone call, one act of self-care. Purpose is not discovered all at once. It's going to be built by one decision at a time. So I want you to remember, you are more than your title, more than that rank, more than your profession, the trauma, the diagnosis, your past. And you certainly are more than what you do for everyone else. And perhaps this season of your life isn't about losing who you are. It's about discovering who you've always been underneath these responsibilities. And this is the reason why I shared my story and I try to put everything into my book, The War Inside. It was written for people like myself, like you, who spent so many years in survival. And now we're just ready to begin living again. So I encourage you guys, reach out, seek that community. Visit our website, mw22.org. There is actually an email thing there that I can start reaching out to you guys and sending you events and all the cool stuff that we're going to be doing. We have our first, besides the Tuesday walks, we have our fundraiser that we're doing in August. It's going to be a motorcycle ride. We're going to have stuff for everybody. Bring the kids, come on out. And if you can't make it out here, then again, just join the community. Visit mw22.org, sign up, and let's get connected. If some of you guys want to talk to me one-on-one, I have a one-on-one there. And if you can't get to me, then get to someone. Reach out to someone. It doesn't have to be what I do, but reach out to someone. Do not feel like you have to carry this alone, because you don't. I'm glad you're here to speak about the hard stuff. I appreciate that. And I'm trying to be better at giving myself grace, because I can give everyone advice and be going through the same thing you're going through, but yet I expect more out of myself. So this is me looking at myself in the mirror as I'm speaking to you guys, to let you guys know, like, I don't have all the answers. I go through stuff just like you. But I am also grateful to have you guys here to build this community, because this is what I've always dreamed of, to having a community that we can all come together, regardless of what your religious preference is, your politics and all that. At the end of the day, it's us here and how we treat each other. So, Anya, sometimes it's hard to find someone to talk to, because a lot of times they're uncomfortable when you show vulnerability, because they're used to you being the strong one. I agree. But if you talk to someone and they make you feel that way, then that's probably not the person to talk to. If you can't, again, you guys know where to find me. Reach out. I'm on every platform and all my things are public. Reach out if you need to. But understand that if someone makes you feel bad for opening up, then that has nothing to do with you. And like you mentioned, they become uncomfortable because they were also never taught how to have those hard conversations. So take a moment to step back and understand that maybe that's a different conversation you guys need to have before you completely decide to brush that person off as well. Just look at it from a different perspective. So understand, again, you don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to take the first step. So before we close tonight, I want to, again, ask you one final question. Who are you becoming? Who are you becoming? Because your story isn't over. It isn't over, not even close. Your purpose is not finished. And your next chapter is still being written. So ask yourself, who are you becoming? Sometime tonight, even when you write down in a journal, pull out a piece of paper and a pen. Ask yourself, who am I becoming? Your next chapter it's up to you. It doesn't have to be a sprint. You can take your time and do that. We're always here. And before I go, starting next week, this show will be on Wednesdays. I've always wanted to go back to Wednesdays and have it as a part of Wellness Wednesdays. I will be doing this show next week on Wednesdays, and it will be on Wednesdays. Thursday, I am fortunate enough, I will be in Addison, Texas, doing my very first book signing. So again, the show will be on Wednesdays. I will post it up. Thank you all for being a part of this show, for being on this journey together, right? Remember, everyone will see the warrior, but very few understand the war that's inside. We are Men of Warrior 22. We're stronger together, and no one should stand alone. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.